lifetime to consciously expanding your capacity to understand and experience the world in a peaceful, skillful way. So you don't have to take it on, but that's one of the
suggestions. So you wouldn't really go then to Samadhi. I mean, if you're not really following to that, if you're saying you don't have to believe in that reincarnation, then you just limited to this life. So you would never in this life then go to Samadhi.
You might. Some people might. So there are hints of who might not. So some people, they say, the absolute reality is underlying at all times. The recognition of it is instantly possible at all times with a little effort, usually with a little effort. So like I said, the butter is inherent in the milk. With a little effort, you draw forth the butter. With a little effort, you draw forth that understanding. Now, depending on the effort that you put in, so effort can be mild, intense, or medium. So if someone puts in intense effort, and they come in with a certain level of capacity and intelligence, their Swabhava Bhumika Adhikara is all quite fortunate and blessed. Their personality, their capacity to understand things, and their level of study and attainment is quite fortunate. Then it is possible that in any given lifetime one can attain, one can realise. Less likely, which again goes back to Anumana, the inference that you probably are going to come back because this is a really big endeavour. It's unlikely we're going to finish it in one go. We might have to come back and have another go. So it's only inferential though. Yoga is not a religion, therefore it is not dogmatic. It does not say...
But reincarnation is a religion.
Reincarnation is part of some religions. It's only a concept.
Buddhism is not a religion.
Buddhism is considered to be a religion because...
But it's not a religion.
No, it's a philosophy as well.
It's a science of the mind.
But, and things can be more than one thing at any given time. So being a science, yoga is also considered a science. It's also considered a philosophy. It's also considered a method of evolution, a method of physical practice. But that doesn't exclude the other things that it also is. So Buddhism can be both a science and a religion. Most people tend to consider Buddhism a religion because it has a set of beliefs that are generally considered to be believed if you can call yourself Buddhist. But not all Buddhists believe all those things, and Buddhism is not a dogmatic religion in that it doesn't say you must believe this or you're not a Buddhist. Whereas some religions, and not even all religions, it's within the cover of that one religion. So Catholicism, Buddhism, whatever, there are different levels of intensity of the dogma and the belief structure, whether they believe you must believe this, or this is what's recommended to believe, or this is the information that's been put before you. So we're putting information before you. We're not saying you have to believe it. We're saying yoga is not saying you must believe this. It's saying this is the information we're putting before you. This is the inference, this is the conclusion that we've come up with. We do believe that there is probably multiple lifetimes, that cycle of reincarnation, but we also allow that all of these techniques will work for you even if you are a person who doesn't believe in reincarnation. So it's not saying it does or doesn't exist or that it's right or wrong to believe in it. It's just saying we do infer that it probably is like that, but even someone that doesn't believe in it will still get benefit from these methods and reach greater peace and harmony within themselves if they follow these practices. So, does that make sense? Yeah. My understanding of Buddhism is that it's generally...
No, but last night in meditation was talking about that very thing, and he didn't say reincarnation, but there's that stream of dropping away this body and this...
Yeah, that is exactly what we just...
And so that would be really reincarnation because it's this stream that never changes, it's just the body
and that is actually a fantastic point, because when you practice Shavasana, each time you practice Shavasana you're going through death and rebirth. So you are going through a mini reincarnation, a process of reincarnation. Shavasana meaning corpse pose, you're literally practicing. And that's just exactly what we just said with the method of meditation. Vichaka, Vitaka Vichara Ananda Asmita Rupa Anugama Samapratyata. That's exactly what you're talking about, is the dropping away of the body, the senses, the consciousness, the awareness, and stripping away of all of those from the gross to the subtle. That's exactly what we just talked about.
And that's Brahman, isn't it? Is that Brahman?
Doesn't really matter. No, the ultimate state that you end in is sometimes called Samadhi, sometimes called Kaivalya, sometimes called Brahman, sometimes called Shunya, sometimes called Kaivalya. There's many names. Enlightenment, there's many names.
So if we're Brahman and Samadhi, then we have to have rebirth because that's our ultimate state.
If we are Brahman and Samadhi, we don't rebirth anymore. We're the under.
Well, into the human realm. Yeah.
If we have attained that state, we don't rebirth anymore. So if we've attained that understanding that we are at the expanded, unlimited, undifferentiated experience of consciousness and being, we don't rebirth anymore. We only rebirth because we haven't reached that full attainment, but there's still seeds attached to our thoughts, and the seeds have the possibility of generating further actions and therefore further consequences and karmas that have to be played out.
You just said that.
No, I'm saying in the teaching, in this particular concept that we're exploring, that's one of the possibilities, but you could call it a metaphysical rebirth.
If I'm going to believe in that, in Samadhi and Brahman and everything, and that pure consciousness, then I have to believe in rebirth. I can't have one without the other. It's like which comes first, the chicken or the egg.
That's your reasoning.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, that's your reasoning.
That's how
and that's fantastic because what it shows me is that you're investigating and questioning this process. You're not just accepting anything. You're actually taking time to challenge it, investigate it, and make it your own knowledge.
Well, now I feel it. I don't even question it. I feel it.
Yes. So none of us have reached the permanent state of Samadhi yet. So none of us have that. If you have, you're very welcome to be here. But none of us, this is all theoretical for us, so we are trusting the teachers that have gone before us. Yeah. So the information that's being presented is the teachings, the Shabda of teachers that we trust. So for me, I have trusted the Sutras, the teachings of Patanjali and the Gita for so many years, have helped me out in so many different ways. I personally don't know if I believe in reincarnation or not. I'm not really interested. For me, does it help me in my life right this moment to try and become a better person, to try and expand my capacity, to stay equanimous, to stay loving, to stay harmonious, no matter what? It's like a surfer who initially you're in the whitewash and you wipe out. And then you gain the skills and the capacity to handle a 4-foot wave and a 6-foot wave and a 10-foot wave. But at every level you're going to fall again and wipe out again and have to learn more skills. You're constantly having to expand the container. And so for me, it's about, I don't know, apparently at the end of that journey, I might be able to ride a 100-foot wave. That's my equivalent to Samadhi. Apparently, I might be comfortable on a 100-foot wave. Whether that is possible or not, I don't actually know. But I have a faith that it possibly is, and I let that consideration into my mind. I don't say it's not happening, but I'm only at the 6-foot, I'm only at the 4-foot wave, so I'm trying to work on getting to 6-foot first. So what's current for me, what's congruent, what's true and useful for me in this moment is part of the definition of truth in this moment for me. So that might not be for you because each person is slightly different. And that's why they do put in some of the, we're going to get to some things in a minute which are considered the enticements, where we're encouraged to go in this journey because of what we might get from it. So that's one of the reasons that Samadhi Pada comes first, not at the end of the sutras, because we're going to be told about some enticements, some states of being that we want to be in. So even just that first state of being free of desire, how peaceful, how good would that feel? That's an enticement to want to do the practices to go on this journey. So yeah. So each individual is at their own direct experience. So your direct experience is not mine. And vice versa. We all experience things through the filters of our learning, our life, our upbringing, our gender, our nationality, our travel experience, everything that we've been through creates filters, and we bring the world in, we bring the knowledge in through our senses. It goes through all our filters, it hits our brain processes it in a certain way, and we come up with what is truth for us in our direct experience. And later on it talks about it being your direct experience, not from another, being higher than what is said by another person or even what is being learned from the text. So direct experience is more valid. So yours is more valid to you than anything I could say in this instance. So yeah. Okay, so some people are lucky. They come into this world with a greater capacity. Perhaps they have been in a part 5, and perhaps they have attained a certain level. Maybe they've even been to the very second last stage of Samadhi, but not quite at that end, and all they have to come back is to just do a little bit of, a little bit of a polish, and they're there. Who knows? So some people come into the world like that at a high level. Some people, through their practices, have attained a merging with the understanding of nature. We do know that others have to then, and the others, so Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Prajna, Purvaka, Itaresham. Itaresham means everyone else. They get ahead through faith, through effort, and through learning and study. So we've got some people that seem to have a natural capacity, whether that be because of their IQ or because of their past lives karma. And then we get to the other people, everyone else, we just have to do our best. We have to have faith, we have to practice, and we have to study. And that's how we get ahead. Tivra samveganam asana. So for those who are ardent in their efforts, for those who really try hard, then attainment is close by. So asana, obviously in the physical sense, is our asana practice, but the real meaning of asana is us to be or us to sit, and usually when we hear asana, it means sit nearby, sit close. So those who are ardently striving, it's much closer. But then you have mridhu madhya adima pratopi vishesha. So then you also have the categories of people who are putting in mild effort, moderate effort, and then those who are putting in more intense effort. And the degree of your success will relate to proportionally to the degree of the effort that you put in. And then it says, and this is very important, Ishwara Pranidhanava. Or, so you can either study, have faith, put in effort, or you could surrender to the Lord. And again, here we come up with another little bit of controversy, because Ishwara is a name that they give to the personified form of consciousness. So supreme consciousness is a pretty big concept. So not many people have the capacity, the study, the learning to really get and be able to take in a concept of either supreme consciousness or of complete emptiness that is also full of infinite potential. So, which is shunya. So we have an in-between. We have this thing called Ishwara, which is similar to the Western version of God, not necessarily with the qualities. We don't give the qualities, we don't give Ishwara the white beard and the abode in the clouds or anything like that. There's none of those qualities, but it personifies, it gives the kind of more human energy, a relatable energy that we can connect to and begin our practice. Sometimes they use the word Ishwara, sometimes Bhagavati, Bhagavan, and sometimes Lord, Supreme Lord. Sometimes the names of deities are used instead of Ishwara if you have a particular connection to a particular deity. The word Ishwara comes from Ish, which means to master or to reign. So for those who are not comfortable with the concept of a Lord, it is sovereignty, our own mastery, our own self, our highest version of who we are. We surrender to that. We get out of our own way. We stop blocking ourselves with our thoughts and our wants and our desires, and we get out of our way. And when we get all of that out of the way, when we quieten the emotions, when we quieten the mind, our inner light shines forth. And that is also a way to surrender to Ishvara. Krishnamacharya, who is a great yoga teacher and who is the sort of like, he's one of the main teachers in our tradition, whose students were Iyengar, Patabi, Desikachar and Indradevi. And then from that, the various teachers that our particular centre is quite aligned to, he, after giving a 2-week meditation course, he was asked, how can you summarise this? And he just said, Ishvara Pranigad, surrender to the Lord. So even someone of that level of attainment. And when you Ishvara Pranigad, Klesha Karma Vipaka Asayir Aparam Mritaha Purusha Vishesha Ishvara. Ishvara is a very unique individual who is free from all karmas, all limitations, all vrittis. Nothing is contained in Ishvara. Ishvara is fully attained, a fully and realised state. Ishvara is the source of all knowledge. Tatra Nirat Tishayam Sarvajna Vijam, so Sarvajna Vijam is the seed of all knowledge. So all knowledge comes from the mind of Ishvara. And because, assuming that Ishvara is fully attained, then Ishvara is fully absorbed and one with the absolute ultimate state of being, whatever that is. Bhava pratyayo videha prakriti oh, sorry, I'm going backwards. Sa esha purva sham api guruhu kalenana vachedat. And Ishvara is the guru of all gurus because he is kalena vachedat. He is not limited by time. There is no constraint of time. He has never not existed, or the Supreme Consciousness has never not existed. So the first guru received their teaching from Ishvara. The last guru will receive their teaching from Ishvara. Ishvara is the source of all knowledge and the source of all understanding. Tasya vachaka pranava. And the sound that represents Ishvara, or this supreme state, is pranava. And for those of you that aren't familiar, pranava is Om. So I think, when you say the letter Z, you don't say, when we say it in a word, it goes Z or Z, but when we call it something, we call it Z. So when we say Om, we say Om, but when we talk about it, we say pranava. We call it pranava. Pranava is Om. So chanting Om represents the supreme state of consciousness. And I'm going to talk about Om in a minute, but I'm going to tell you just a little bit more of what he says. So tad japas, tad arkabhavanam. So repeating Om brings forth all of its qualities and brings those qualities into your being. Tatar pratyak chetana adhikamo kyan tarya apavascha. And then it turns our mind inwards to the place that we can let go of the external influences and attain enlightenment. So all of this comes from chanting Om. Now Om is literally, it's not just one syllable, it is actually 3 Sanskrit letters put together, plus the Visarga, which is silence. So there's 4 parts to it. A, which is the most open, unmodified state, so no restrictions whatsoever. U, which is a modified state, so some modification halfway and sustainable. Which is finite, the close. So some people call that sattva, rajas and tamas. And so it's everything that's possible, from the most open, unformed, formless experience of life, of experience of being, experience of consciousness, to the modified states of consciousness and being, and the most finite states of consciousness and being are all contained in that sound, ah, or, plus the silence, which represents the supreme undifferentiated state that surrounds all things, from which all things come from and all things return to and all things are part of, and that are represented in that lovely chant, Om Purnamidam Purnamida Purnamadashte Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate, which means when you take the whole from the whole still remains. The bit that's been taken out is still whole, and the bit that remains is still whole. Something like that. I've paraphrased and made it a bit more Australian, but it's along those lines. So yeah, so we're talking about a mystery that we have not yet attained the level of understanding necessary to understand the fullness of it. When you say Om, so a lot of people go, oh, well, if it's all those parts, I must go, Om. Do you hear that? Usually, though, you hear Om, Om. So you begin. This is the instruction given in one of the texts, one of the interpretations, is that you begin making the sound O, O, but then you turn it into or, like yawn or lawn. So Om, Om. And the timing of it is said to be 3 matras per each part of the sound. So a matra is when you take your finger around your knee and click. That's what a matra is. So essentially it's a second. I mean, it's about a second, right? So, better go faster with my quick. And then silence for 3 matras. So the silence is part of the practice of Om, because it is the recognition of the supreme consciousness surrounding it, the vast mystery around it, and all the potential healing that occurs within it. Now, Om is said, recitation of Om is said to alleviate all of your afflictions and obstacles. We're going to talk about the obstacles in a second, but Om is said to remove all of those. It's said to transform. Richard Rosen, another yoga teacher, talks about Om magnetizing you. That Ishvara is the magnet, and the practice of Om magnetizes you so that you are naturally drawn towards Ishvara, naturally drawn to that higher state of being. So you don't have to do this incredibly hard, intensive austerities. You don't have to stand on one leg for 30 years or anything like that. You can do something that's quite manageable, accessible, and profound, which is the regular chanting of Om. So the obstacles to our progress are Vyadi, Dhyana, Samsaya, Pramada, Alasya, Avidati, Pranti, Darshana, Alabda, Bhumikapva, Anabhashishta, Tvani, Chitta, Vikshepshate, Antaraya. So, and these are sickness. Now, sickness is not just, I mean, in some ways that's obvious. When you're sick, you can't do anything. Although you can. Sometimes when you're sick, you can mentally chant Om. But sickness is usually an obstacle to our capacity to practice. It usually makes our mind dull and usually takes us away from the path of practice. But this also includes injury. This also includes sickness from lifestyle choices. So when our mind is distracted because we've just had coffee and we can't be still or focused, this is a lifestyle choice that leads to an imbalance, which is a sickness. And anything that's an imbalance in the dotas, according to Ayurveda, which is the 7 types of tissue in the system, when they're out of balance, this is a sickness according to Ayurveda. Anything that you do that causes you to feel lethargic, if you overwork and become fatigued because of that, that's a sickness. If you have too much sugar and it affects your capacity to be steady, it brings you into a space where you're not healthy and balanced, that's a sickness. So also ambition, which leads you to injury, is considered to be a sickness. So all of these things are obstacles to practice. Dhyana, which in text is often called lango, which is a bit of an old-fashioned word, in modern language is procrastination. So that mind that is not naturally willing to work. And it often comes up with millions of reasons why it can't. There's a lot of self-justification in the state of dhyana. So when you're in a state of dhyana, you're procrastinating and you've got all sorts of reasons why I can't do something. And there's plenty of those in the modern world too. No time, that's also part of no time. I'm too young, too old, too stiff, too this. There's lots of reasons why you don't begin your practice in some way. No time is one of the greatest myths of this modern society. This is the other part of Paula's answer, samshaya, doubt. Now, in the Zen traditions, the Great Wall of Doubt is an essential tool. And of course, we do not want you to have blind faith. So some healthy skepticism is there. But that's why we have the process of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, where you hear, you contemplate, research, apply, test, and observe the results, so that you don't go into blind faith about something. But on the other hand, what this is talking about with doubt is excessive investigation, excessive questioning, always needing to know more, but why, and trying to find one way, not the other way, looking for perfection before you can progress. All of those concepts are obstacles to the path. So you don't want to get stuck on trying to get a perfect answer. You want to hear something, you cultivate over time some faith based on what you've done already. And if you're brand new to it, then your faith is a little less steady, a little less strong. But you give it a go, you test it, you try it out, and you see what the results are for yourself, and then it becomes your own embodied experience, your direct experience, which is always higher than what you've heard or what you've studied. So, so doubt can get in your way when you're excessively asking questions or investigating, or when you're excessively doubting and not having faith even in something that's tried and true, or when you're trying to find only one way above all other ways. All of these things are examples of samshaya, doubt. Pramada, which is casualness. So I'm sure all of you can understand. I'm actually not going to talk too much about casualness. It's a casual approach. You might come every now and again to yoga and you wonder why you're not advancing. That small Y yoga. You come to the mat every now and again, you wonder why you're not advancing, or you're making a little bit of an effort on one day. Maybe yesterday you didn't eat all those donuts, but the rest of the day you did, and why am I not progressing in my desire to lose weight? All these things, if you're only casual about it, you're less likely to proceed. And the opposite of being casual is commitment. And there's that beautiful passage by Goethe, until one is committed, there is a hesitancy, the chance to draw back. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things to occur to help that one would never otherwise have occurred. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power and magic in it. So don't be casual with your practice. Begin now. Begin now. No excuses. Next one is laziness. Again, we know usually alasya refers to an excess of tamas in your system. And with the tamas, the issue of tamas, which is the heaviness, inertia in our physical experience, but also in our mind, to bring us back into the balance of sattva, we usually need to go the opposite. So if we've got too much movement, we usually need to go to stillness, towards stillness to balance us out. If there's too much heaviness and inertia, we need to go towards a bit of activity. So get moving, whether it's be anything at all. It doesn't matter what it is, just move. Break up that tamas. And that's the same mentally. If your mind is really stuck, just do something. Listen to inspiring music and inspiring talk. Go to a group class instead of practicing on your own. Practicing on your own when you're tamasic almost always leads to being like, that state. So go to a class, be surrounded, let the energy of the people around you lift you up. Go to an inspiring teacher, all of those things, but get yourself moving. Abhirati, dissipation, so it's actually also indulgence. I've put indulgence in the notes. So only wanting to be in pleasure, only wanting pleasurable experiences, not wanting anything that's not pleasurable. Well, we know where that leads us because we desire. So even if we get it, say for example holiday, we dream, we want the holiday, we say, we get there, we get to that holiday, we have fun on the holiday afterwards, oh that was a great holiday. Oh, now the holiday's gone. Oh, back to life. Life's so boring, especially when I contrast it with the holiday. It's even worse than it was before, and now I need another holiday, and now you're craving again, right? So, or the woman that you want, or the man, or whatever, the perfect being. Oh, I want that person, oh, I love that person, I've got them, now that person not as good as I thought they were. Oh, they blow their nose too loudly, and they, you know, whatever they do, they're really annoying. And oh my God, they're talking to that other woman or man or person, and jealousy comes in, and security. There's all these things. Unless we're highly skilled, there's a lot of things, a lot of pain that comes with the perceived pleasure. So whenever we're motivated by pleasure, we pretty much always know we're going to swing into the pain threshold eventually. You rarely experience it without. But there are some people that are, the next one, I think the next one is, Brahma Darshana. Some people are deluded. They actually think that if they only chase pleasure, they will get only pleasure. That's what they think in life. But it's a delusion. It's an impossibility. So it's vikalpa. It's not based, it's viparaya actually. It's wrong knowledge, not based on the actuality of what is. So then we go to Vedanta Darshana, which is false doctrines, which is literally things that are not true, and this can range from anything from extreme religion or just religion full stop that is not based in reality. I'm not saying all religion all has its goods and bads. I'm not against or for any particular thing. But a good example is things like the promises of getting $1 million if you blah blah blah, invest with me and blah blah blah. Sign up and pay this money and you'll lose 20 pounds in a day. You won't even have to do any exercise. You know, all of these promises, they're false doctrines, they're delusions. Then you have the self-delusions where I'm so attained, I know more than everyone else. I went through a strong self-delusion at around 7 years. I literally, and I've told some of you this, but it's true, I literally thought I somehow had a unique channel into directly plugged into the mind of yoga and knew more than anyone else, including Ayenda himself. I actually knew more, actually had an insight that no one else had. I was so deluded. So of course, when you're in that state of delusion, you do need some humbling, and life will usually do that for you. So delusion has many forms. They're just a couple of them, but they're not real. They're not based in reality. Basically, you're believing something and you're living your life. So, hermeneutics is another one of the tools of the Vedantas, another one of the Vedantas, which means you're using a tool or a filter to get what is true out of texts and documents. Now, all of the ancient texts have 4 categories. The categories of inducement, which is either encouraging you, come and do this and you'll go to heaven and you'll get all these amazing things, or if you see whatever it is, beautiful women, whatever it is, you'll get this if you follow this path. It's an enticement. Then they have the inducements. If you don't do this, you will suffer in the pits of hell. Now, are these things real or not real? According to the technique, the science of interpreting scriptures, these are considered in the category of inducements, which are to guide and try and entice you onto the right path. They are not real. They are not meant to be taken literally. Then you have some genuine teaching, which is good advice that has worked for other people and probably will work for you. Then you have what is considered to be directly divinely revealed, like directly from the source. And then you have that which just makes it pretty. So instead of saying, I went out to the garden, and you say, oh, the beautiful garden with its winding honeysuckle vines and the smell of spring in the air, and it makes it more beautiful. So it's actually elaborating, it's poetry. So not all of those things are meant to be directly believed, but some people do. They take them literally. So the Bible, Quran, whatever text it is, they take everything literally without stopping to think, is there a further meaning? Is this an enticement, or is this meant to be taken literally? So you do get a lot of false beliefs through that as well. Alabdha bhumikatva is not attaining the stages, so not starting from the beginning. So for most of us, you know, if we go to the gym, we don't go and pick up I don't know, what's a heavy weight? I don't know, 50 kilos?
Oh,
but
no.
a barbell? I don't know, 50 kilos, is that a lot? Is that a lot? Okay, we don't just go straight in and pick up 50 kilos, right? We start at 2 or 5 or 10 and we work our way up. It's the same with our practices. If you just go straight to the top without creating the foundation, you are certain to fall. If you're building a building, you don't just build it up as high as you can. You have to set the foundation first and build it up upon that. And the higher you go, the more established the foundation must be. So the attainment, going through the stages of your practice is very important. You're creating the foundation upon which you can build and go higher and further and expand your trust and expand your capacity to take risks and go further with the practice. Usually that is one of the things that gets in the way of people because they haven't attained the results straight away, so they give up. Anavastitatvani is instability. So literally not being able to stay with the path. So, you know, being very inconsistent. Don't you hate it when you go to a restaurant and one time the meal's awesome, the next time it's inedible? Consistency is part of the path too. So instability, falling off the path all the time, getting on, getting off will be an obstacle, will block you from your progress. And so will distractions of the mind. And distractions of the mind is also included in not being able to maintain a concentrated mind or concentrated effort. So you need to maintain your concentration. If you can't hold concentration, you can't progress on the path. So concentration is one of the first qualities that you develop. Dukkha dharmanyasa angamejja trayasvasa prasyasa dikshepahasa hipruviha. So pain, depression, tremoring of the limbs and uneven breathing are symptoms of these obstacles. So some people say there's 13 obstacles, 9 obstacles and then the symptoms of those. So if you're observing any of those in your experience, you're breathing or ragged or uneven or excessively loud or any of those things, you need to come back and look at what part, where you might be being blocked. What are you doing that is not taking you on your path? If your limbs are tremoring, if your nervous system's tremoring, what are you doing that's not taking you forward? These are of the body and of the mind. Tat pratisheda akam ekatatva abhyasa. But in order to counteract these distractions, one should resort to the practice of ekatatva, which is concentration on a single principle. And then the next few chapters, the next few, I've listed these for you because I think these are really important, the methods of concentrating the mind. So concentrating the mind on a single principle in general terms is meditation. So here are some forms of meditation for you. First of all, we have, where are we?
The four immeasurables, is that what?
Yes, thank you, that's exactly where I'm up to. Brahma Viharas, the four immeasurables. Maitri Karuna Mudita Upekshanam Sukha Dukkha Punya Vishayanam Bhavana Paschita Prasadanam. So these are called the four immeasurables. They're very high teaching in both Buddhist and yogic traditions. They are said to be the qualities that you must cultivate towards all beings to be able to progress and counteract the distractions of the mind. So if you consciously and proactively cultivate friendliness, compassion, empathetic joy, sometimes just called joy, but the extra instruction is often given that it's not just joy in general, but joy even in other people's lives. So when they have success, you're happy for them, you're not jealous of them, and cultivating that sets you free and stops your mind getting distracted. And upeksha, which is staying steady no matter what. Now the second part of it, the dukkha sukha part of it, some people say it's you maintain these qualities to all being, whether they're happy, unhappy, worthy or unworthy. Other teachings break it down that you maintain friendliness to people who are happy, compassion to people who are in suffering, and so they break it down that way. So I advocate always that you test it out for yourself. For me, I don't think there's any harm in trying to cultivate all of those qualities towards all people at all times. That's my particular preference. Some people can prefer, it makes more sense to them. to be friendly to happy people, but why not be friendly to sad people, unless you think being friendly to them will upset them, in which case you want to show compassion but not necessarily be friendly. I don't know. You have to work it out for yourself. But to me, to bear in mind these general qualities of mind will create a calm and illumined mind, the kind of personality that is more naturally inclined to progress on the path of yoga. The second one is prachadana vidaranabhyam va pranasya. So basically it's pranayama, but specifically it is expelling, a conscious expelling of the breath, and then depending on the teacher that you study, it's either retention, so holding that breath out, so conscious exhalation, and then holding the breath out for a few seconds before the inhale comes. This is actually, interestingly enough, a very an often used tool in counteracting anxiety. So at the end of every exhale, hold the breath out for a count of 100, 200, too much. So you hold the breath out for 2 breaths, and it's very calming to the mind. Other people suggest that it is the conscious exhale and then the soft conscious inhale that naturally comes as a result of a proper exhale. But either way, conscious, calm breathing, steady breathing of even length will calm and quieten the mind. Pranayama is a whole other branch of experimentation, so we'll leave it at that today. Vishaya Bhakti Pravriti Utpana Manasi Sthiti Nibandhani. So this one's meditating on your senses. So, you know when you're there and you're lying on the sun and you're just like, wow, that feels good. And you concentrate, naturally you're drawn into that concentration. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, and the breeze, oh, that feels amazing. And oh, yeah, I can feel the firmness, your senses become enhanced. So meditating on your senses leads you to extrasensory perception. It increases your capacity to experience on really subtle realms through the senses. And this in turn leads you to much more subtler understandings of the way of being in the world. So it's considered to be, not only is it very relaxing, calming and peaceful anyway to do that, so if you've ever been there or you listen, for me I love, one of my favourite ways to get into a meditative state is to listen to birds. So I just sit there and I literally just listen. And I hear the birds and I follow that sound in, and suddenly I'm in, senses have taken me in, but I become super aware, not just of, I hear the birds, I hear trucks, I hear loud cars, motorbikes, jet skis, I hear trees, I hear the wind, I hear life, and then I hear beyond all those sounds, I hear silence. And so that meditation on that sense of sound, Chapt, takes you into that extrasensory perception, which is unruffled by, because it's an internal awareness, it's an internal experience of that sense. So you're not disturbed with the sound. You don't label it a good or a bad sound. Like, oh, birds good, cars bad. You don't have any of that experience. You're just in that state of receiving and experiencing, and it's quite a profound, amazing place to be. So that's meditating on the senses. Vishoka Jyotis Mati is meditating on anything at all that is free from sorrow and that is illuminating, that brings light. So a lot of the practices like meditating on the heart chakra, meditating on an inner light, meditating on a candle flame in the heart, in the third eye and the heart, or meditating and visualizing white light, all of these things are free from sorrow and bringing light to your consciousness. Light is always the symbol of illuminated mind. So when you take time to meditate on these things, you bring that into your experience, and it's a very beautiful practice. Vitaraga Vishayam Vachitam. This is where we meditate on our gurus and on our role models. So we meditate on people who have overcome the effects of desires. So we're assuming, because this is the first chapter, we're the imperfected man, we're not the perfected man, we're assuming that we need some help with that, but we still are being controlled by Prakriti, by nature, by our desires. So therefore, we bring to mind a guru, a deity, whatever it is, a person, being, that we know has transcended the effects, and by concentrating our attention on that guru, we in ourselves are infused with their consciousness and their dispassion, and it calms our mind as well. Swapna nidra jnana alambanam va. So we meditate on the meanings from dreams. So you can wake up. In the yogic traditions, they believe in a lot of wisdom coming through our dreams, not just from our subcognitive processes, but from the subconscious chuck up some bits of information where they put all the stuff that's too difficult for us to figure out in a conscious state, and then chuck up for our wisdom in our dreams. But also it is believed that you can truly get messages from gurus, deceased, deities can come through in that state where we're not quite in the conscious world yet, we're not in the alternate world either, and so the veil becomes a bit thinner and we can receive true information sometimes. The other way that we can use sleep as a meditation is, when you've had a really good sleep and you wake up and you're just in that really peaceful, chilled out state, you concentrate on that. And then that anything you concentrate on, anywhere you put your light of your concentration, that increases, and so we're increasing and embodying that feeling into our lives and into our day. Yatha abhimata dhyana dva, which basically means meditate on anything you like. So, are you meditating? Just scratching something. I got curious about this, so it's like, meditate on anything you like, right? Oh, okay, I'm going to test it out. So I started meditating on all sorts of random things, and I thought, I'm going to meditate on that blade of grass there, and I did. And for quite a lot of time, I made that my meditation. And I tell you, it was incredible, because I had this realization that if I truly understood the nature of that blade of grass, I would understand the nature of the whole entire existence. And that's what it says in the Sutras. It says, once you are able to go through, not to the form, not to the knowledge, but to the essence, and beyond the essence to the observing, and beyond the observing to the being, and beyond the being to the not being, to the being and not being inclusive, then you have attained full knowledge. So just through the gateway of the blade of grass, you can go there. But the test is, does it take you towards a less Vritti state or a more Vritti state? So if whatever you meditate on or concentrate on is disturbing you, then that's not taking you towards a quiet and Vritti state. So I heard somewhere that you can never go wrong with meditation. But seeing as the fruit of meditation is meant to be some sort of calming or quietening of the vrittis, of the thought waves, some sort of freeing, some sort of blowing out of the nirvana means blowing out of the sensory passions and desires and thoughts, everything when they're all blown out like a candle, and then even the smoke of the candle disperses and there's nothing left, you are set free. So if it's actually aggravating and making stronger those waves, then perhaps it might not have been a good meditative practice for you. Try something else. There's plenty to try. Paramanu paramam mahatvanto sya vashikara. So the yogi's capacity to meditate incorporates the most minute particle and the greatest expanse of everything possible. So we can go from anything. The realm of possible meditation is everything and anything can be meditated on. And if one has mastered meditation on all this range, then one has transcended and has attained mastery. Because if you've gone through the process to the essence and the understanding of the nature of all things, then you have, including consciousness itself, you have then come to mastery. No, it's not. Not it, but yeah, we're getting close. So I'm going to hard to whiz through this stuff, but anyway. Shinabritya aditya tasya ive mane grahiti grahana graheshu tatsta anjanata samapatihi. So just like a jewel reflects whatever is next to it, a really clear-cut jewel reflects whatever's next to it. When the waves have become so still, they become like a reflective surface, and they reflect whatever is nearby, and you can understand the nature of all things when your mind is that clear. Both the grasper, the person doing the viewing, the observing, the object of the observing, and the process of observing itself become merged into one experience, and this merging of one experience leads us into an advanced state of concentration. Tatra shabda atayana vikalpaihi samkirna sarvitaka samapatihi. When that absorption is on a gross object, so something that can be named, that has form, it's called sarvitaka samadhi, so with form, with knowledge. Smriti parishdal swarupa shunyeva atamatra nirbisa nirbitaka. But when you identify with something that is in the gross element, in the gross world, is a gross object, yet you have no knowledge or concept of that, then it's called nirbitaka samadhi. Now there's a beautiful story that demonstrates this. A disciple came to his teacher who was trying to teach him to meditate on God. And the teacher gave him all these instructions and said, now go away to your hut and practice. And he came back and he said, how did you go? Oh, not good, not good. I couldn't concentrate. All I could think about was my pet buffalo. So the teacher said, okay, go away and meditate on your pet buffalo. And so he went to his hut and he meditated. And the teacher hadn't seen him for weeks. And he thought, oh, I better go and check on him, make sure he's all right. And he went up and knocked on the door of the hut. And the man opened the hut and he opened the door and he said, I'm sorry I can't get out to greet you. My horns are too big to get through. So that is when you first start to meditate. I'm meditating on my buffalo. The buffalo might have a name, it has form. We have a conceptual understanding of what a buffalo is. But when full absorption with that object happens, we no longer have a differentiation between that object and us. And that's nirvitaka samadhi. Meditation or concentration on a gross form, but with no knowledge of that. We've absorbed with it. In the same way, etayavya savichara nirvichara chapt sukshma vishaya vyakyata. So in the same way, we have the same differentiations with subtle objects when we concentrate or meditate on subtle objects. Subtle object is chara, and karka is the gross object. So the sarvi chara is the meditation on the subtle object with which we have an understanding or concept. So perhaps that could be God. So if he then did take that capacity to meditate and put it on God, God is a subtle concept or the senses. Of the senses, a lot of the examples they give are not the element like earth, but the sense that goes with that, which is smell. So earth is the gross object, smell is the subtle object. So we're meditating on a subtle object rather than a gross object, or we're on a more esoteric or formless concept. The more subtle it is, but we have a concept of it, and then we are in sarvachara samadhi. So we're in that state of quietened waves that still has some sort of concept or understanding of what that thing we're meditating on. When we merge with that, that is when we are in nirvichara. So we're merged with that subtle experience. When there's just smell, there's not something, a sense that we're meditating on, but there is just that thing. We are in a merged state, and that is sarvichara samadhi. Shukshma vishaya tvam cha alinga para vasaram. Subtle objects end at consciousness. So everything in the material world, prakriti, goes from very gross experience of nature, of form, to very, very subtle experience of form. It goes all the way up to that point of consciousness. Once we have reached consciousness, that's the end of the realm of objects. Ta eva sabija samadhi. These types of samadhi, even though they are highly attained states, they still have seed. So we still have that possibility of a thought or concept coming in that will generate an action. And wherever there is an action, so does everyone know that karma, the word karma, there's no good or bad karma, there's only karma, which is action, means action. That's all it means. But inherent in our understanding of action is that there's always a consequence to action. So whatever you do will have a consequence. If planting a seed, it will grow, it will sprout, it will play out. So even at these high levels of samadhi, you are going to have some seeds left, some samskaras left. So they're not complete attainment just yet, because a thought or a concept could still sprout and take you back into that aware state of an objective reality. Nivichara vaishara dhyayatma prasadaha. But when you are in that clarity, it's a very high state of clarity. That's called the clarity of your inner being, not of the external world, but the internal world. Ritambara tatra prajna. It's considered in the wisdom or the understanding that you get in this state, in this high state of samadhi, is considered to be truth. Not false, no qualifications, no misconceptions, no error, but absolute truth is said to come to you when you're in this state. So the wisdom that you get when you're in lower states and you're meditating on something, you get information from it. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes not helpful, but when you're in these higher states of samadhi or mind, consciousness, anything, when you're meditating in that state, the wisdom that comes to you is not erroneous, it has truth, it has the qualities of truth in them. Ritam is cosmic truth as well, so not just truth in your own life, but truth as it applies throughout the whole entire universe. Shrutam anumana prajnapyam anya vishaya vishesha aptatvat. Completely forgotten what that one is. No, I haven't. Yes, I know what that is. When we were talking about before, when we were saying that shruta, that was which has been heard, shruta anumana, so anything that has been heard or that has been come to by your learning or your study is not as high as the direct experience. So at this high state, you're not relying on anything outside of yourself for your wisdom. You're getting it through that direct understanding, that direct experience of it. And at that state, that is a much higher state than any learning or anything that you can hear. Tajjata samskaronya samskara pratibandhi. And that samskara, then, once you get to that level, where all you're getting is this truth coming in, this wave of truth, just washing in, this wave of understanding, just washing in. Every other samskara is wiped out. So all your thoughts, all your fears, all the concepts, future, past, all of those, it's like this giant wave just comes and absorbs them all. But we have one stage to go. Even this giant wave of understanding coming into our conscious awareness must also cease. And when that ceases, tasya api nirode sarva nirodhan nibija samadhi, we have reached the seedless samadhi. At this stage, the seeds are burnt out. They have no further possibility of sprouting. They are infertile. There will not be any further repercussions from your thoughts, your actions, your deeds. At this point in time, you may or may not be in your physical body still. Mostly, people can attain and stay in the physical body for quite some years. But the words that you say, the actions that you do not have any further repercussions. You will not generate any further karmas for any further actions, nor for any further lifetimes, should that be your framework. And it's like an actor, the example is given, it's like an actor. It's the last night of the run of the play. You know that this play is never going to be performed again, so you're never going to have to go on stage and do these words, but you also can't give up and walk off. You still have to go through the words, you still have to play out all the karmas, all the actions that are still playing out, their repercussions around you. You remain undisturbed. You go through, it doesn't matter to you whether the audience likes it or doesn't like it. It doesn't matter to you whether you do well or you don't do well, or whether the other actors do well or don't do well. You're playing it out to the end, curtain closes, and there is no more. And that's when you have attained the full seedless state of samadhi. At this point, when Patanjali considers himself or one considers oneself, he no longer says, I am Patanjali receiving wisdom. There's no longer this, it's I am Atman. So at that point there is complete absorption with supreme consciousness, supreme understanding at every level. Undifferentiated, permanent, abiding, apparently blissful. Haven't quite got there, but it's waiting for us. And all the way, all the things in between. And just to finish, I thought there was a nice description of it in this particular little text. This is from Swami Vivekananda. Nature or Prakrity's task is done. This unselfish task which our sweet nurse, nature, has imposed upon herself, she gently took the self-forgetting soul by the hand, as it were, and showed him all the experiences in the universe, all manifestations, bringing him higher and higher through various bodies, till his lost glory came back and he remembered his own nature. Then the kind mother went back the same way she came, for others who have also lost their way in the trackless desert of life. And thus is she working, without beginning and without end. And thus, through pleasure and pain, through good and evil, the infinite river of souls is flowing into the ocean of perfection, of self-realization. And that, my friends, is the end of this talk. Oh my gosh, we kind of got through it. There's a whole lot more we didn't talk about, but we got a lot in there.
Have you got an example of someone? Would you say Amar has attained that state?
I could only infer, because I'm not at a point where I have that reference point. So I definitely know she's at a very high level of attainment.
Yoga
Paramahansa Yogananda?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Mm.
Because it's like I'm looking from here, looking up, going, oh yeah, I think they are. But maybe there's someone higher than that or higher than them that's going, yeah, come on, get better. So I can assume that people like them would be examples. They're definitely examples to aim for. They're definitely people that have transcended selfish desires. I mean, she is selfless. She's completely selfless. And she has infinite energy. I've been, anybody that's been in her space has seen her for hours and hours and hours. They say, sometimes I've heard it's even up to days where she endlessly is giving love and benediction without any nurturing or taking of refreshments or anything like that. So it's possible that she is fully attained. It said she was attained from pretty much
young.
Yeah, very young. So she is one of those ones that's come in with the high attainment levels, and one would assume that she is an example of it. I definitely know my definite direct experience of Mr. Iyengar is that he was definitely at a highly attained level. Whether at the full level or not, I'm not qualified to be able to make that call, but my experience in his presence was one of complete release and surrender and dissolving of like a mountain of pain and things that were getting in my way that lasted for more than 2 years. So, and that was a direct, all he said to me was namaskar, but he looked in my eyes with such profound love that I was just melted, and it was really one of the most incredible experiences of my life. So, and there are other people I've directly experienced that have definitely got those higher levels, whether it's full attainment. Ramana Maharishi, Sri Punjaji, they're all teachers that we assume have reached those stages. I'm just not qualified to be able to say this.
No, I had that same experience when I met the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. And Buddha is said to be a perfected one. So Buddha just literally means perfected one. The Buddha that we know as Buddha, the big B Buddha, is said to be perfected. Jesus was said to be perfected. So there are those few examples. But there's said to be, I heard a rumour that at any given time, not a rumour, a theory, that at any given time on earth there's like 5 people that are enlightened. out of all the billions that exist. So that's not very many, but it's amazing to think that there could be any at all. So, any other questions, comments, anything? Are we stunned? Are we enlightened? We might be.
I've got something.
We have to see.
I'd like to sing.
That was amazing.
You do know you're being recorded. Thank you, Catherine.
And my head's going to explode.
Mine too. And the universe thanks you too. The state of gratitude, that is, thanks you. It gets really complicated when you try to label it accurately, right? That is one of the things. I mean, some of the teachings are that which you can name is not it. So, because the ultimate state is so far beyond our comprehension. So, yeah, it gets tricky. Words are tricky. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
It was awesome having you here. I appreciate it very, very much. Namaste.
Namaste.